It's been one of the deadliest weeks for the Mediterranean migrant crisis. 3 boats sank last week. More than 60 bodies have been recovered so far, and the UN says 700 are feared missing. Charity group MSF puts that number closer to 900. And now reports that a 4th vessel also sank last week, carrying around 400 people.
It seems that on Wednesday night, at least 2 fishing boats and a rubber boat left Sabratha. One of the fishing boats carried around 500 people, and it towed the smaller fishing boat with some 400 people on board it. On Thursday morning, the smaller boat, the one that did not have a motor, was being towed, started to take on water. Some people managed to jump in the water and reach the larger boat, and some were even able to climb up the tow line. Very few people. The tow line was then cut and the smaller boat sank.
Witnesses say many women and children were on that boat. Italian police have detained a man who they suspect was the captain of the larger boat.
The Italian Navy has been doing a fantastic job. They have rescued about 14,000 people so far this week, but unfortunately there have been a number of incidents where people have lost their lives, and in 3 separate shipwrecks we estimate that 700 people might have died or are still missing and unaccounted for.
This week's arrivals included Eritreans, Sudanese, Nigerians and many other West Africans. Most of the boats are said to have left from Sabratha in Libya. Disturbing reports are emerging there of people smugglers beating and raping migrant women. Maria Galang, CCTV.
Well, the Italian Navy has been bringing hundreds of rescued people to Italian ports. Some have been speaking out about what happened to them and their hopes for the future. Let's take a look.
These people are just some of those rescued by the Italian Navy in the Mediterranean between Wednesday and Friday last week. The United Nations Refugee Agency says the number of migrants rescued shows the crisis is far from over.
The reason why so many people are taking to sea at the moment and risking their lives is because they have no option. We have to give them the possibility to travel legally and safely.
Many of those who arrived in Italy on Sunday were survivors of the worst migrant boat disaster last week. A wooden fishing vessel being towed by smugglers from the Libyan port of Sabratha sank on Thursday, with 400 to 550 people believed missing in the incident. One survivor from Eritrea described the moment when the boat began to sink.
It was very hard because the water was coming from everywhere, from below and from above. We tried to save all the people. That was not possible. As for the children, some were already dead. Some jumped into the water, some swam. The situation was out of control.
The Italian Navy ship also carried the bodies of 45 migrants who perished on the perilous journey across the Mediterranean.
I want to tell the world this situation is dangerous for us because my brother, sister, family will lose their lives in this channel. Please help us to have freedom in our country. I don't want to stay here or any other place. I want my country to have freedom.
The UN Refugee Agency says last week was one of the busiest in the migrant crisis in the Mediterranean this year. It was also one of the most tragic, with at least 700 people believed dead. Nathan Rogers, CCTV.
Tragic indeed. Let's get you more on that story now. I'm joined live from Berlin by CCTV's Guy Henderson. Guy, you've spent some time in Italy with migrants and refugees. Talk us through the process once they've landed on Italian shores.
Well, it's not a new process. It's something that the Italian authorities have been getting used to for several years. Of course, the refugee influx from North Africa was making headlines, particularly on that small island of Lampedusa. Back in 2011, the process is, particularly now, that migrants and refugees are picked up sometimes only just off the Libyan coast, just outside Libyan waters, by rescue boats, by the Italian Navy, by the Coast Guard. There is then an immediate level of coordination between those rescue teams and teams on the ground in mainland Italy and in Lampedusa, in Sicily as well, about where these people can then be housed, because capacity is a real issue, and I'm sure in the coming days will be a particular issue given this surge of many thousands of people trying to make this crossing in the last 8 days or so. People are then sent to various reception centres run by the Italian government in places like the port of Catania, other parts of mainland Italy, and a European Union run hotspot centre as well, where they are then registered. And this is the big difference from, say, this time last year, is that the vast majority of those new arrivals now, rather than being waved on or a blind eye being turned so they can move on to other parts of Europe, the vast majority now are being strongly persuaded to register for asylum. They're then sent on to almost semi-permanent accommodation, where they wait for that asylum process to take its course. Months, in some cases, we've heard that whole process can take years.
Right, let's leave it there for now, Guy Henderson, live for us there in Berlin. Many thanks. Now, the African Union says it's saddened by the latest loss of life in the Mediterranean. Our officials say there's no quick fix to the continued mass migration. We spoke to CCTV's Grim Chella a little earlier.
Has long been a priority matter for the African Union, and every time there is a tragedy in the Mediterranean, it's another reminder to member states they must do more to persuade people to stay at home. African Union Commissioner for Social Affairs Mustafa Sadiki Kaloko told me one answer is job creation. Running away from conflict is one thing, but many migrants are making their trip simply because they see no future at home. Creating jobs is a long-term and difficult mission. It requires resources, investment, and coordinated leadership across Africa. So for now, there are condolences from the African Union, but officials say at the moment there is little AU members can do to prevent more tragedies in the Mediterranean. Grum Tala CCTV, Addis Ababa, Ethiopia.